So if you're a beginner copywriter like myself, then I think this video is for you. And the reason I'm making this video is that what I'm about to share with you, I wish I knew this when I first started out. And it's gonna save you a world of trouble, because it's gonna have you judge the information you're consuming with a much clearer lens. You're gonna smell bullshit or know what is actually genuine and what is coming from first principles, rather than somebody that's just they have their own agenda and they're trying to sell you a course or whatnot. This is my first ever video for YouTube, and I want to make this clear that it's my first time. So that means it's gonna how I come across and how I explain myself on camera is gonna be a little bit rough around the edges. You know, even just then I'm stumbled up on my words, but I'm not trying to be perfect, because I know that each video I make, I'll get better and better. So I just want to say, you know, give me some grace. I'm new to this whole recording and talking into the camera. But what you can expect from me going forward is just complete honesty, me being myself. I might be a little bit goofy as well, because if you're doing something, you have to also enjoy it as well. You can't just be static and robotic about anything that you're doing. You need to have fun doing it. So yeah, that's how we're gonna do it on this channel. It's just gonna be total transparency, everything will be first principles, because everything that we see in this world can be broken down into simple things, and it's about mastering the fundamental, the basics. If you look at all the great athletes and people who are great at their craft, they master the fundamentals. Kobe, Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps, all of these people. And I know that I've named all sports people, but everything. If you listen to Charlie Munger, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they talk about breaking things down into the simplest form to understand it. Then you can build from that. You know, you can't build a roof on shaky foundations. So that's what I'm about. I'm not. If you're somebody who's wanting to just make quick money and you're into this 10k a month in 2 months fallacy and all of this nonsense you see on YouTube, then this is not the video for you, or this is not the channel for you. So I guess you can just click off. This is for people. What I'm trying to build is a community of people who are trying to learn copywriting or even marketing as a whole, and learning the fundamental principles. And it's more so, this is going to lean more so into psychology, because that's what the great copywriters or the great marketers understand. They understand human nature, not some formula or these surface level stuff that people be talking about on YouTube. So I kind of went into a little of a rant there, but yeah, you know, I want to keep things as real as possible, and we have to live in reality and not let somebody sell us some pipe dream. So we must know it's about making better decisions and becoming better decision makers, right? Okay. So when it comes to, I want to share a story with you about myself and how I got into copywriting. So when I was a social worker, I left my social working job a year ago, and I wanted to go into the line of marketing, because it's something, you know, I like psychology, I like all of that stuff. So I figured, let me see what this is all about. And then, you know, you fall into that trap of the social media marketing agency route and all of that stuff that's going on online that everyone seems to be. Imagine that, bloody postman interrupted me mid recording. Anyway, so I was saying, so I jumped into that whole social media marketing world, started watching YouTube videos, you know, all of these YouTube gurus selling you a pipe dream of 10k in 2 months, or 10k in 50k in 3 months, whatever it is. They make these wild statements, and because they know a lot of people are broke and trying to make quick money, so they know that will entice them. And I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that's making that, or making that in that time span, but what I'm saying that is, you have to be the information that you're consuming online, you have to be discerning. And the reason why, I'm going to give you 3 sort of mental models you can use to sort of make better decisions in terms of, okay, is this, what this person is saying to me, is this valid, or is there some hidden agenda behind it? Because a lot of people online who's teaching copywriting, you've never seen them broken down copy. You've never seen their work, but they're selling you a course. There's no skin in the game. Where's, you know, sure, you're working out, you know, are other people talking how great you of a copywriter you are? So what qualifies you to be teaching others? And that's the thing when you're new. When you're new, you're uninformed, and you can be a little bit naive into thinking, oh, this person is genuine. So we're going to stop that. So the first thing I want to say to you is that two words even, self-interest. Self-interest is rooted in all of us. There's a reason why I'm doing this, even sharing with you my journey, and hoping you can come along and learn something. Although I'm trying to give to you, there's also a reason behind why I'm doing it, you know, because I want to show that I've done the work. I want to show my authority in copywriting and build on that, right? So there's some self-interest in there, for I'm not just doing this for the sake of it. And that's something we need to understand. Some people are doing things not for your sake but theirs, and does it benefit you is the question you need to be asking in some way. You know, is it a win-win situation, or is it a win-lose situation? And I want to share 3 quotes, because I've been reading autobiographies of successful people. I've been doing a lot of studying on human psychology, human nature, and this thing of self-interest, and we should always appeal to self-interest, and incentives is what rule the world, keeps popping up. So like, here's 3 examples. So for example, Napoleon Bonaparte, and if you don't know who that is, go and search it up. He says, men are moved by 2 levers, fear and self-interest, right? And also in Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, he speaks about this as well. I think it's Law 13, and he says, appeal to people's interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. So there's that concept, self-interest again. And also I had another one here. Here's a sort of a passage from Epictetus, a philosopher, many moons ago. Be not deceived. Every animal is attached to nothing so much as its own interest. Whatever then seems to hinder his way to this, be it a brother or a father or a child, the object of his passion or his own lover, he hates him, guards against him, curses him. That passage is a little bit dense, but he's basically saying that everything, every person, every man you meet, they have their own self-interest, something that they care deeply about. And simply put, is like people, and this is something you will need to, when you start getting your clients, or you're writing messages for copy message for your clients, or whatever you're doing when it comes to marketing, you're trying to sell something to somebody else, or you're trying to take action. You have to not convince, but you have to remind your clients that this is not about them. They have to appeal to what the customer cares about, you know, because we're so caught up in our own self-interest in what's going on in our lives. We don't care about other people. You know, if somebody's got a headache right now, they don't care if 60 kids is starving in Africa. Their headache is what takes precedent. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we have to remember, when we're going on YouTube and trying to learn from people, I'm not saying there aren't good people on YouTube that is distilling good information. For example, I like Alex Hormozi. I think he's great. Charlie Munger, I think he's great. He puts out some good stuff. And even though he's telling you, hey, I'm advertising and, you know, sign up to my thing and I can get you clients, when you watch his content, there's so much game you can learn from what he says, and there's truth to it. So yeah, those 2. There's more, but I can't think of them right now. So please be wary of these YouTube gurus where it's like you've never seen anything they've done, you've never seen their work. You know, they don't break down copy, they don't talk about fundamentals, they don't talk about principles. And one thing you know is somebody know their stuff is if they talk about great people who've done great things in the past. If they speak about Charlie Munger, if they talk about David Ogilvy, if they talk about Gary Halbert, if they talk about Clayton Makepeace, you know, in terms of the realms of copywriting, I use Charlie Munger at first because I think he's just great. He's just a great man with one of the smartest man ever to walk this earth. If they're not talking about these people and everything is about monetary value, you can go on YouTube and you know exactly what I'm talking about. If everything is centered around making money, then I would be wary. I would be very wary of these people because that's how they pull you in. And I doubt that these people really study the basics, the fundamental principles. But anyway, that's enough of that. The second thing I want to talk about is this mental model of the map is not the territory. And what I mean by that is that the map somebody's trying to provide for you to say, oh, this is how you make 10K, or this is the journey you need, this is the exact route you need to take to make 10K. You can't just wholeheartedly follow that without actually questioning it. Because, for example, if you actually look at a map, it might tell you that there's a stream or a river down there, but it doesn't tell you that it's, for example, there's a stream. It says there's a stream on the map, but it doesn't tell you how deep that stream is. It doesn't tell you how wide it is. It doesn't tell you if it's running from a valley or it's coming down from a hill. It doesn't tell you there's some trees that fell down in the water and it's blocking it, so you won't be able to cross over to the other side. So the map is not the territory, is a mental model to know that what people are suggesting or the way things look or the way they present it might not be what it actually is in reality. And you have to question that and always be vigilant to know, like, okay, they say this, but that might not be the case for me. And especially when you're following somebody else's map, there's a great chance you might lose yourself or you might get lost because you're not the one that's navigating. It's somebody else telling you how to navigate. So just because your man there made, for example, there'll be somebody that tell you, oh yeah, I made 50K in 2 months, but they didn't tell you prior to that they worked 2 years before they actually made that money. They only tell you the sort of the Rocky scene where he jumps up and do all of that celebration, but they didn't show you all of that training, all that work that they needed to put in to actually get to being able to make. Nobody just wakes up and make 50K per month. Whether it's either you're scamming people or you're doing something unethical or you've actually put in the work. The universe doesn't work like that. So when you see people saying all these outlandish claims and saying they make big money and whatever, ask yourself, how long did they take to make that money? Or was this just one lucky month? But then you go back to, you know, they made 50K this month, but, you know, on an average, they only make like 5K a month. Do you understand what I'm saying? People will tell you the highlight reel headline that will grab your attention, but they're not telling you the reality of things. So always remember, the map is not the territory. Right. So the last thing I want to talk about in terms of these, in making better decisions, always think in first principles. And this is what going forward in the community I'm trying to build is going to be rooted in. First principles. What are the basic fundamentals? Because if you know the fundamentals of things, you know exactly how things work, and that's how you can build something great. And you can't build a roof with shaky foundations. So if you've mastered the fundamentals, as I said, all the great people, all the great athletes, all the people who do great things, Elon Musk, he talks about first principles and the fundamentals and what are the basic things, and it's more so about simplicity. Kobe spoke about this, practicing the basic moves. Michael Jordan said the same thing. So if you're on YouTube and you're watching people and they're not talking about the first principles of copywriting or the first principles of persuasion, and they're not starting from there, then don't listen to them. Because if they're telling you, oh, use this framework, you only know the surface level stuff, but you don't actually know what's under the hood. How does something work? So it's important to start from the bottom and work the way up. But here's a caveat to that. Learning the basic and the fundamentals means you're going to take longer to achieve your goals. But as I said, I'm not somebody who's trying to make quick money. I'm trying to build something remarkable. And if that's you, then, you know, continue to rock with me, stick with me, and we can build and grow as a community and help each other. And the reason why I left first principles till the last is because it dovetails nicely into the next two things I want to talk to you about, which is very important when it comes to copywriting. People online always talk about copywriting, and they talk about all these these legends of copywriting, like David Ogilvy, John Caples, Claude Hopkins, Clayton Makepeace, Mel Martin, all of these people who were great copywriters in their time, right? And even the modern ones now, like Gary Bencivenga, who was a superb copywriter. They say, oh yeah, they're great copywriters, and you know, they had this control that run for so many times, for so many years, and X, Y, and Z. But I'd argue, and I'll go on record, and if I'm wrong, then, you know, somebody might see this and tell me that I'm wrong, and I'm open to say maybe I got it wrong. I would argue that these people are not great copywriters. They are great at understanding human nature and human psychology. Because with copywriting, it's not something that you just write. You know, the great Eugene Schwartz, and I forgot to mention him in the list that I just gave you. The great Eugene Schwartz said that copy is not, you can't create desire. You have to channel it through the customers. You have to channel what's already there. You know, you understand what I'm saying? So it's not like you just you just start writing whatsoever, because you don't write copy, you assemble it. He said that himself. And you don't need to, that's why you don't need to be a great writer to become a copywriter, because it's like you're not actually writing your words, you're writing the words that you've taken from the customers, their words, because that's what's going to resonate with them. You understand what I'm saying? You can't in your head write what you think your customer's gonna want. That's why if you go to a doctor, he asks you and he gets a full picture of what's going on. Then he makes a diagnosis. So you have to ask your customers, see what they like, see what they're doing. Then you write copy that aligns with whatever desire they have. So I would argue all the great copywriters, they're great at three things. The first one, and it comes last, but I'm going to mention it first. First, they're great editors, because nobody writes a first draft perfect. Obviously, if you're like a master copywriter and you're experienced, then it's easier. You take less and less attempts to make your copy perfect. So they're great editors. They're also great researchers. All the great copywriters, like for example David Deutsch. I think I've butchered his name. All of these people, there's another guy, I'm absolutely gonna butcher this guy name, and apologies if you see this. What's his name? He has a Greek name, Papamopoulous. I'm very sorry, boss. But the point I'm trying to make, they are great at researching, and they do extensive research before they even put pen to paper. So you see, it's not exactly about how great of a writer you are. It's more so about researching and seeing what your customer wants. And so they're great editors and they're great researchers. The other thing they are extremely intimate when it comes to the topic of human nature, human psychology, behavioral science, cognitive biases. And I think if you have, as in terms of first principles and the basics, right? If you learn the human psychology and human nature, and then you couple that with research, that's how you become a masterful persuader. That's how you become a great copywriter. Because think about it logically. How can you get people to take action, right? You're dealing with people, not robots or not entity like a business. You're selling to people and you're asking them to take action. You can't do that if you don't understand people. And by understanding people, you have to understand human nature, as I said, human psychology, cognitive biases, evolutionary psychology, evolutionary biology. Think about it. Most of these gurus are not talking about this stuff. They tell you this pipe dream. They tell, oh yeah, follow this template, follow this formula. But it's like, you don't understand where is that coming from? Why is this person written this thing like the way he did? And that's the thing. When you become proficient at learning sort of the biases of people, that's how you're able to write certain things and say, okay, no, don't do it like that, because the customer is going to think based on their cognitive bias. That's how they're going to think. So let's write it like this. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when it comes to fundamentals, it's more about learning human nature. And if you go and check out all the great copywriters, they'll say it themselves. Even in Claude Hopkins, in scientific advertising, that's one of the things he says. A man must be proficient in psychology, because you're dealing with people, so you must know how they think. So I think I've totally disregarded people on YouTube, and I started going to the source, and I started going to people who came before me, who weren't trying to just sell a dream or trying to make money from you. They actually done the work. Because all of the great copywriters, they're not on YouTube trying to tell you how to make money. They're actually doing it themselves. And they're too busy doing it themselves to be telling people, oh, X, Y, and Z, and you can make 50K and that. And do you understand where I'm coming from? I feel like I say do you understand where I'm coming from a lot? I'm going to try and cut that out. But yeah, so that's where I'm going to be taking this channel, because in my videos to come, I'm going to be doing sort of ads, copy, sales letter breakdown. And I'm not just going to be talking the fluff stuff. I'm going to be talking about the cognitive biases the copywriters were utilizing or using to make the copy or the ad effective. And if you don't know, once you know these stuff, it's so easier to be like, okay, let's go with a story, because people can connect with stories, because the mirror neurons in their brain allows them to feel what we're writing on paper. All of these things. Ask some of these YouTube gurus, do they know what mirror neurons are? They can't tell you. And you know, I'm not saying everyone, and this is not me to say I've got superior knowledge, but it's like what I'm trying to show you, especially if you're a beginner, is that when it takes more time, but when you do things properly and you try to learn the fundamentals and learn the basics, you actually are able to see through the bullshit. Like just now, before I started making this video, I was watching, I went on YouTube to see what kind of videos they were making in X, Y, and Z. And it's like, I was just thinking to myself when they were saying certain things, I'm like, look at this fluff. Nobody, if you're learning from somebody, you're only going to be as good as, you're not going to be as good as they are. And if they are like a 6 out of 10 copywriter, you're probably at best going to be a 4 or 5 out of 10 copywriter. So that's why I say, look at the people who are trying to teach you something. If they're not at least an 8 or above, then forget it, because why would you want to learn from somebody who's mediocre? And as a beginner copywriter, I was like, look, I only want to learn from the best, and I want to do things properly so I can actually build something that's remarkable. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I hope that helps, because as I said, when we first start, it's quite easy for us to get pulled in to bad information, and there's a ton of it out there. So it's more so being discerning and knowing what information to follow. So in my next videos, I'm just going to be breaking down principles in terms of cognitive biases, behavioral science, all of that stuff. And, you know, it's going to be fun. So if you found this video helpful, smash the like button, subscribe. I'm going to be posting as much as I can. And yeah, man, I'll see you in the next one.